Hey, what's up YouTube? I'm Kevin the Lonewolf, and today we'll be taking a look at the NFL Combat Football 25 Deep Dive. So we'll be talking about the development of this game, and you've already heard from the review trailer. Yes, there will be a development deep dive, and that's what I'm gonna show this to you. So it is advertised as the NFL experience for the Hunger Games simulator. Created as of the 2024 NFL season with current rosters and drafts, that is Combat Football 25, and we have the logo design that is inspired by Madden. The Madden logo from 15 to 20. And of course you have this logo shown in the game, which you will be seeing on the top left when you boot up the season in the Hunger Games simulator. That's the one that you see on the top left. So what is Combat Football 25? It is promoted as the #1 NFL experience in Hunger Games simulator. Combat Football provides a casual and fun simulation with real NFL players and teams for fans who had enough of bearing the brunt of EA's modern Madden titles. As of today, Madden's monopoly is eventually ending as American football fans are open to other games with similar charm to football, such as Wildcard Football, Maximum Football, Legend Bowl, Sunday Rivals, and Retro Bowl. Using the Hunger Games simulator as a foundation, Combat Football is a free-to-play web browser simulation game with zero budget, standing out from the other Madden alternatives as the cheapest offer. Combat Football 25 is the first and latest entry in the Combat Football series, based on the NFL 2024 season. To coincide with the latest season, rosters will be updated annually, as well as the game title, like Combat Football 26, with the 2025 season roster. So now let's move on to the player rosters. Now, for the team rosters, I picked like the top teams, right? Like, the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens. I only picked the top teams and the top players for each team. So now let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs, we have Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, Travis Kelce as the tight end, Chris Jones as the defensive tackle, and Isaiah Pacheco as the halfback. Now let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens. We have Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, Zay Flowers, the wide receiver, Isaiah Likely, the tight end, and Derrick Henry as the halfback. Now let's take a look at the Buffalo Bills. We have Josh Allen as the quarterback, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid as the two tight ends, and James Cook as the halfback. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins, we have Tua Tagovailoa as the quarterback, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as the two wide receivers, and Chop Robinson as the newly drafted defensive tackle. Now let's move on to the New England Patriots. We have starting quarterback Drake May. I believe Drake May is the starting quarterback based on some promotional material. We have Hunter Henry as the tight end, Ramondre Stevenson as the running back, and Juju Smith-Schuster as the wide receiver. Now let's move on to the New York Jets. We have Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, Sauce Gardner as the cornerback, Breece Hall as the halfback, and Thomas Morstead as the punter. Now let's move on to the NFC rosters. We have the Eagles, Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, Saquon Barkley as the halfback, Jordan Mailata as the left tackle, Devontae Smith as the wide receiver. Now let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers. We have Brock Purdy as the quarterback, Christian McCaffrey as the halfback, Fred Warner as the middle linebacker, and George Kittle as the tight end. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we have Baker Mayfield as the quarterback, Mike Evans, Big Mike, as the wide receiver, Kate Otten as the tight end, and Antoine Winfield Jr. as the safety. Now let's move on to the Detroit Lions. We have Jared Goff as the quarterback, David Montgomery as the halfback, Sam Laporta as the tight end, and Amon-Ra St. Brown as the wide receiver. And wrapping up the NFC rosters, we have the Chicago Bears. We have Caleb Williams, the newly drafted quarterback as the Chicago Bears, DeAndre Swift as the halfback, who he moved from the Eagles to the Bears because he's a free agent, Cole Kmet as the tight end, and Rome Odunze as the newly drafted wide receiver. And that concludes the NFC and AFC rosters. Let's take a look at the Ultimate Team, which is a collection of retired NFL players. So at launch, you're going to have Tom Brady from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as quarterback. And I know he's also known for being the Patriots, but let's just have him from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you have Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, Barry Sanders, a running back from the Detroit Lions, Rob Gronkowski, tight end of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Jason Kelce, center of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now let's take a look at the reserve players. And reserve players are players that will be joining the rotation at some point. So we have like these 2-week rotations. So the ultimate team roster will be available for 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks we'll rotate to have new players. And these new players will be then on the reserve list, waiting for their turn to be on the roster. So for the quarterbacks, we have Bart Starr of the Green Bay Packers, Jim Plunkett of the Oakland Raiders, Terry Bradshaw of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joe Montana of the San Francisco 49ers, Joe Theismann of the Washington Redskins or Commanders, Jim Kelly of the Buffalo Bills, Dan Marino of the Miami Dolphins, John Elway of the Denver Broncos, Troy Aikman of the Dallas Cowboys, Brett Favre of the Green Bay Packers, Drew Bledsoe of the New England Patriots, Kurt Warner of the St. Louis Rams, Michael Vick of the Atlanta Falcons, Peyton Manning of the Denver Broncos, although he also did play for the Indianapolis Colts, Eli Manning of the New York Giants, Donovan McNabb of the Philadelphia Eagles, Tony Romo of the Dallas Cowboys, Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints, Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers, Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts, Colin Kaepernick of the San Francisco 49ers, Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs, and Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons. And now let's take a look at the other roles like running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Ray Nitschke, linebacker of the Green Bay Packers. Willie Davis, defensive end of the Green Bay Packers. Thurman Thomas, running back of the Buffalo Bills. Bruce Smith, defensive end of the Buffalo Bills. John Riggins, running back of the Washington Redskins. Jerry Rice, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. Lawrence Taylor, linebacker of the New York Giants. Emmitt Smith, running back of the Dallas Cowboys. Ray Lewis, middle linebacker of the Baltimore Ravens. Ty Law, cornerback of the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel, offensive linebacker of the New England Patriots. Teddy Bruschi, offensive linebacker of the New England Patriots. Eddie George, running back of the Tennessee Titans. Marshall Faulk, running back of the St. Louis Rams. Tony Gonzalez, tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs. Michael Strahan, defensive end of the New York Giants. Wes Welker, wide receiver of the New England Patriots. Randy Moss, wide receiver of the New England Patriots. Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals. Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions. Hayden Hillis, fullback of the Cleveland Browns. Michael Oher, offensive tackle of the Baltimore Ravens. Bernard Pollard, safety of the Baltimore Ravens. Pat McAfee, punter of the Indianapolis Colts. Julian Edelman, wide receiver of the New England Patriots. Mark Ingram, running back of the New Orleans Saints. Deshaun Jackson, defensive tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles. Adrian Peterson, running back of the Minnesota Vikings. Greg Jennings, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. Richard Sherman, cornerback of the Seattle Seahawks. Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Aaron Donald, the defensive tackle of the Los Angeles Rams. So now let's take a look at the capital personnel, which is not applicable for play, but it's there to provide lore and narrative to the combat football series. So we have Roger Goodell, who's going to play as the President Snow character. And Roger Goodell is the NFL commissioner that runs the NFL from like 2006. Is it really 2006? I'm definitely sure Roger Goodell started his career as a commissioner from 2006. It's basically like the CEO of the NFL, like executive board, if you know what I mean. And then we also have John Madden, who is the head game maker of the series. So John Madden is the head game maker because he's the face of like the Madden series. Like without John Madden, there will be no John Madden football. So he's the one that makes the Madden games. Like even I mean the Madden games are trash nowadays, but he's the one that started the Madden franchise. We also have other game makers. So the game makers are basically NFL head coaches. So we have these NFL head coaches that are game makers. So we have Bill Belichick as the Patriots head coach. And I've heard, yes, I do heard that Bill Belichick parted ways with the Patriots, but I'm just going to put Bill Belichick there. Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, and John Harbaugh Now let's move on to peacekeepers, which I have this idea of, hey, let's put refs as the peacekeeper because they have these white colored apparel here. I mean, there is some black, but there's some black color here. So I don't know how to pronounce these last names, so we'll just go with the first name. So you have Bill, Carl, Terry, and John as like the main 4 peacekeepers. So now we have the master of ceremonies, Chris Berman, who is known for playing as himself in like the pre-game show, the halftime show, the post-game show in ESPN NFL 2K5, which is considered to be the best NFL game. I'm not saying that Madden 05 is like worse than NFL 2K5. I'm not saying that. Madden 05 is actually good. Madden 05 is actually good, but NFL 2K5 has much more detail than Madden 05. And also Chris Berman is back to be the commentator on Wild Card Football, which is a non-simulation football game but has the NFLPA license. So now let's take a look at sponsors. So if you don't know what sponsors are people that bring out care packages to tributes on the field. So basically the ones that bring out care packages. And it's what Hamish says. If they want sponsors, you have to make sure they like you. So that's how these sponsors work. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, we have Taylor Swift, because there is this phenomenon where every time Taylor Swift went to like the Chiefs games, the Chiefs would most of the time win. I'm not saying all the time, but most of the time. So kind of like this morale booster, if you will. So she would boost the team's morale and give the team a higher chance to win. So that's how it works. You also have Donna Kelsey, because he got this, because of course like families would want to support their team, right? So you got Travis and Jason. So Travis is with the Kansas City Chiefs. She's also supporting for the Eagles. So I mean, yeah, Jason Kelsey retires from the Eagles, but Jason Kelsey would still support the Eagles, and especially Donna as well. We also had the Brady family of the New England Patriots supporting the Patriots or the Bucks, depending on where you're looking at. So Tom Brady, so for Tom Brady, right? So if he's not in the Ultimate Team roster, he would go on the sidelines and support the Patriots and the Bucks. So now let's move on to the playbook. So meaning the rules of combat football. So despite having real NFL players, it plays differently for NFL football, obviously. To begin with, combat football leans towards violent plays, leading to critical injuries or even fatalities. Basically like Blitz the League. Like if you play Blitz the League, you know what I mean. Like take Blitz the League, but you crank it out 10 times harder. Unlike the NFL, only one player representing a team will become the season champion, but the player's team will also be represented. Like, for example, Tom Brady, representing the NFL Ultimate Team, is your combat football season champion. Due to the unpredictable nature of the plays in combat football, the game assures the player that there are more outcomes that can be discovered by replaying the season, thus encouraging replay value. So the difficulty options, you got the low death rate, medium death rate, high death rate, and very high death rate in the Hunger Games Simulator. Low death rate, you got rookie, pro is medium death rate, all pro is high death rate, and of course all Madden, very high death rate. Now let's take a look at the draft. The draft is the starting menu of the game. The player can view the player roster before kicking off the season. The player is also free to edit the roster should there be any mishaps or changes to the roster. Alternatively, fantasy football teams can be created, much like creating a team in the PS2 Madden titles. However, it is not recommended to edit the roster, as we'll be updating it annually, as well as a dedicated Ultimate Team roster. So the kickoff game is the starting game of the season, basically like the bloodbath in the Hunger Games Simulator. So as the starting whistle blows, players are given the option to either stock up on resources to ensure their survival throughout the season, or back out of the draft center. However, stocking up on resources is a risky move compared to backing out, as all players are subjected to violent plays from one another, thus increasing the chances of elimination from the season. Now for trading, which is basically the feast in the Hunger Games Simulator, during some time in the match, the draft center will eventually open with restocked supplies for the players to receive at a huge discount. This event plays similarly to the NFL kickoff game, as players can back out if they choose not to trade. So now let's take a look at the arena events, which is called Sunday Night Football, the primetime event of the season. Sunday Night Football provides an adrenaline-pumping game for football fans to enjoy during their plays. Players are subjected to the game's brutal conditions and must use their plays wisely to survive. Failure could end up in elimination, which is more common in this event compared to the others. So far, we've added only one new event, which is the Legion of Boom. So the Legion of Boom is a really, I gotta say, like a powerful defensive unit from the Seattle Seahawks in the 2010s. So we kind of exaggerate it and go like, let's make them much more deadlier. So you have Richard Sherman as the cornerback, Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas as the two safeties. So we got these 5 outcomes. Richard Sherman tackled player 1 to death. Cam Chancellor brutally ended player 1's career. Earl Thomas fatally bashed player 1 with a helmet. Player 1, you know the meme. You mad, bro. And you have these 6 random players formed the lines to take on the Seahawks, but the team is too much for them. So yeah, these are the players that they're gonna be up against. So winning the game, the last player standing in the season will be obviously the combat football champion. Moreover, the player's team will be represented to compensate the other eliminated teammates from the same team. After the champion has been declared, all players, regardless of completion, will advance into the offseason before the next season starts. So meaning that when you choose to simulate again, the players will just come back, regardless. So now let's take a look at the other rules. So when selecting an ultimate team, these rules can apply. So there can only be one quarterback. So there cannot be a team like, oh, it's all quarterbacks. No, there can only be one quarterback. The remaining 3 slots will be delegated to players in other roles like running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defensive tackles, so on and so forth. And there cannot be a repeating player for at least 2 consecutive fortnightly rotations. So what does it mean by a fortnight? If you don't know what a fortnight is, it is 2 weeks. That is what a fortnight is. 2 weeks. So meaning that there cannot be a repeating player. So let's say Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to be the quarterback of the Ultimate Team roster at launch, but he will not be the quarterback in the second rotation. That's what happens. But sometimes it can be more because we don't want to have like this repeating player again. So yeah, so these are the rules of using an Ultimate Team roster. Okay, so now let's move on to like these frequently answered questions. So is Combat Football 25 free to play? Absolutely. We do not intend to make any form of profit from the game. Hence, there will be no microtransactions or any pay-to-win mechanics. No strings attached. So meaning that you don't need to pay for anything. You just simply boot up the game and there you go. So what inspires this game? Is it different from any sim-focused games? Well, yes. We wanted to steer clear from the simulation football genre and focus on creating a fun and unpredictable football game. As the website's name suggests, BrantSteele's, we are inspired by the Hunger Games, especially its simulator from the same developer. As such, we are distancing from other sim titles such as Madden and NFL 2K. Now you have this question like, oh my god, my Ultimate Team players are changing, is it a glitch? Well, don't worry. We have countless NFL retired players from Ultimate Team. So that's why we have to so don't panic. We have countless retired NFL players for Ultimate Team. So this team will undergo a fortnightly rotation, which means 2 weeks. Meaning that the team will change players every 2 weeks. So if you want to know more about the rotation, you can join our subreddit r/combatfootball to receive updates. And speaking of updates, is the game constantly receiving updates? Yes, we are updating the game with new features or any roster changes based on the current 2024 NFL season. Once again, you can join the subreddit to receive updates. So how does the Combat Football release cycle work? Much like Madden, Combat Football will have a new title every NFL season. However, unlike Madden, the next Combat Football will only be a roster update while the gameplay is fully retained. For example, Combat Football 25 is based on the 2024 season, whereas Combat Football 26 will be based on the 2025 season. So if you're on the subreddit and you have any other questions, feel free to create a post with a flair question and we're happy to answer. You can also go into the comments on this deep dive if you have any other questions that we can answer. So we have come to the end of the development deep dive of Combat Football 25. Hopefully this video can help you understand more about the game and and help you understand what will be coming at launch. So if you like this video, give it a like, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, and also subscribe. And I'll see you in the gameplay demo. Peace out.